In this video, I will show you the annotation feature of Test Center in action. Annotations are a new way to mark and comment on test results. Besides just adding additional information to test results, annotations can also be used to override test results, or to categorize errors and create new statistics, or to model your test result analysis processes in Test Center. So annotations are a very versatile feature where you can decide how exactly you want to use them. So let me give you a quick demo of this new feature. I've already opened the Explore page with an example result. We see here that we executed some test suites as part of our nightly tests, and some of the tests that we executed have failed. I've already defined some annotations, and I already marked one of the failures here with an annotation to categorize the cause of the issue. So in this case, I looked at the test and I determined that the issue was caused by our continuous integration system. So I annotated the result with the CI/CD error annotation, which you can see marked in blue here. Let's now assume that after thoroughly analyzing this next error here, of the suite find object, that maybe this is caused by an actual bug in our application under test. To add an annotation for this errors, we can click on the new annotation icon here, which will open the annotation dialog. Here I can select the AOT error annotation, and I can also select for which reports this annotation should be set. And if I have any further information I want to share, I can also add a comment to this annotation. So let's write, this seems to be caused by commit XYZ. Now we can see a new annotation was added. If we hover over the annotation, then it tells me who created the annotation and when it was created. It also shows me the comment that was added and whether the annotation is restricted to specific reports. Another place where we can add annotation is the verification view. So if I click on this test result here of the suite find all objects, then that takes me to the verification view. And there I can also add annotations via this little add annotation icons up here. In this case, the annotation will always be bound to just the report that the event originates from. So let's say that maybe this was caused by some device error. So here we can see annotations are also then shown above the events in the verification view. But if we go back to the Explore view, then we will also see the annotation here. Now that we have categorized some of these errors, let's take a quick look at the history view. As you can see, the history will also show which annotations were set on a batch by showing the annotation icons next to the test results. And if we go to the statistics page, we see that we also keep track of annotations on this page. So you can see the ratio between the number of times a test failed in total in relation to how often it was caused by an issue on the CI system, or an issue with the AOT, or an issue with the device we tested on. Now, going back to the Explore view and the initial result we looked at, as I said earlier, annotations are very versatile, and instead of categorizing the error types here, we could also have tracked the severity, or we want to maybe use this to flag which person or team should look into an issue. Then I can, of course, also add multiple annotations. So for example, for the AOT error here, I could add another annotation and say, okay, this issue should be taken care of by team A. And maybe the device error down here, that should be taken care of by team B. So there is multiple different ways in which you can use annotations. And now we see that there are two annotations added for suite find object and for suite find all objects. And there's different meanings behind the annotations that we added here. Now let's take a look at how to edit or create entirely new annotation types. For this, I have to switch over to the global settings. And here we added a new tab called Annotations. In this Annotations tab, we see all annotations that are already configured for this test center instance. Now let's say we want to add a new annotation for flaky tests. I can do this by using the Create Annotation Type button in the top right corner, and that will then add a row at the bottom here. First, we need to specify the display name. As this annotation is supposed to be for flaky tests, let's just call it flaky. Then we need to configure an icon. To make it easier to identify different annotation types, we suggest to use a suitable Unicode icon, but you could also use any ordinary letter here. So I will choose the Ghost Unicode icon. And another important way to tell apart annotation types is the color. Let's use a greenish color maybe for the flaky annotation. And now an important setting we have not yet talked about. You can also use annotations to override results. For flaky tests, maybe we don't want the failures to distract us from other more important failures, and therefore we might want to override all failures that happened in tests that have the flaky annotation and display them as passed. To achieve this, we can set the override result setting to override results as passed. Another important and common use case for this override is also when you have a very big test suite and you encounter some failures. Sometimes you don't want to re-execute the entire test suite, but only those tests that have failed before. And now you can use this override result annotation after you have uploaded the passing re-executed tests, and this way you can still reach an overall passing state for the batch. Okay, let's now save the new annotation type and jump right to the history. So here we are on the history for the result that we previously looked at, and let's say we have identified that suite native type is flaky, and that we want to ignore it for now. For this, we can also open the Add Annotation page or dialog on the history and choose our new annotation type for flaky tests. If you look at the time frame settings for our annotation, we see that we can also specify time ranges for when our annotation should be applied to a specific test. So let's say we don't yet know when we will have time to fix this flaky test, and therefore let's pick an open-ended time frame here starting from the beginning of the timeline, and then let's maybe also add a comment and say that this test needs to be fixed. And then add the annotation. After adding the annotation, we can also see that the time range for which we have specified this annotation is also visible and rendered in the history. Now let's jump back to the Explore view for one last time, just to verify that the flake annotation is also visible here. And for that, let's maybe also jump back in the hierarchy to really get the original view. And here we now see that suite native type is now has now a passing result and our flaky annotation. It was very important for us to make sure that you can still somehow see that this test only passed because of a manual adjustment I made. So therefore the passing icon here is slightly different for this test than for normal passing icons. As you can see, this is our normal passing icon. This is the icon that indicates that a manual adjustment was made, but still an overall passing result was achieved. If I finally end up fixing the test in the future, then I can remove this annotation again using the remove button next to the annotation. And in the remove dialog, I can choose if I want to entirely remove the annotation or if I just want to end the time frame so that this annotation stops being applied to results after a specific point in time. Thank you for your attention. I hope this short introduction will help you to start leveraging this feature, be it for further improving the structure of your test data or to model your test result analysis processes in Test Center.